Hi guys, so before we get into it, a quick disclaimer that you'll find all my other reviews of Stephen King adaptations in my Stephen King playlist, and there will be spoilers today, but do you care? I mean, is it the case that you have a copy of this film on DVD and it's been sitting next to your TV for quite some time now and you've been dying to put it on, you just haven't quite found the right moment, and therefore you don't want to be spoiled? If that's the case, then you're a liar. So this is the ninth Children of the Corn that I have covered, and I must admit I am getting a little bit tired of the series at this point. And as such, I've decided to give you the plot summary today in the form of charades. So I'm going to try and give you the story whilst being completely silent the whole time. Let's see if I can communicate the plot that way. Let's give it a shot. Right, here we go. And that's basically the plot of the film. So if you didn't catch that, a young couple on a road trip, they break down, they end up stumbling into this little farmstead and they get captured. What I couldn't communicate invisibly is that they are held in place by supernatural powers. They can't leave this place because the children in this film are all like invisible ghosts. There's this one child who's still alive, who's kept in the shed for some reason, and he can send his powers outwards to have an effect on proceedings. It's a whole load of jumble, the plot of this film, believe me. But that's essentially it, and our heroes do kind of get out of Dodge at the end of all this for a little while anyway, and then we get the sting in the tail ending. So this was directed by Joel Soisson. You might remember him from the horror films Pulse 2 and Pulse 3, and he also did a horror film called Cam to Cam. I've not seen any of the Pulse films. If that is indeed a trilogy, at the very least, then do let me know if they are worth watching, because I've not seen any of them. Now, when it comes to the title here, Children of the Corn Genesis, there is a prologue which I didn't describe during my little charade section. So there's a soldier who comes back from Vietnam. He arrives back in Gatlin and he finds his entire family have been massacred because he's basically missed out on the events of Children of the Corn 1 because he was overseas. So he ends up becoming a character in our main story to come, but he's got survivor's guilt. But one of the bodies that he finds has got like a piece of paper scrunched up in its hand, and written on that is the word Genesis. And at the time I'm like, oh, that relates to the title. And then for the rest of the movie, you hear nothing about the word Genesis. Now, I did look up on Google what Genesis means in relation to the Bible, because I didn't know, I'm not a religious person. And all I could find is that it's to do with the creation of Earth and the idea that there can be life on Earth. It's very broad in scope, the definition that I found. And I'm just scratching my head as to what, therefore, the word has got to do with our movie. What has this got to do with the idea of a young couple being trapped on a farmstead? Now, the female character in this is pregnant, so, and the villains do want the baby from her, it turns out. So maybe it's connected with that. Maybe she's carrying the life and it's the next generation and it's more life on Earth. But honestly, it's so vague, it just makes the title completely pointless in my eyes. You might as well have just called the film Children of the Corn 9. The film is okay for, I'd say, roughly half the runtime. There's a nice building atmosphere as Tim and Ali first arrive at the farmstead. We don't know what's happening. There's a good sense of mystery. Ali is dressed a bit like Jill Valentine, which I really liked. I can't remember the character names of the couple who welcome them in. They're an American and a Ukrainian. The American is played by Billy Drago, who I've seen in about 1,000 things, but he doesn't have much to get his teeth into here. He's playing a very plank-faced sort of character. But the film takes a turn for the worst just when it's time for the characters to all go to sleep. Because there's a little scene where Drago essentially says to our protagonists, look, we've taken you in, we've given you hospitality, we've given you a bedroom. All we ask in return tonight is that you don't go anywhere on the property where you're not supposed to. Don't go exploring. Don't go into any rooms we haven't given you permission to go into. Just stay in your lane and everything will be fine, and tomorrow you can go on your way. But do they do that? No. I mean, all they had to do was just stay in their room, maybe bonk for a little bit before bedtime, go to sleep. That's it. But no, they can't help themselves, or specifically Ali can't. So just before bed, she goes to the toilet, and as she's at the outhouse out back, when she finishes there, she can't resist just walking to the side a little bit and having a little peek in the shed, and then she walks a bit more and has a little peek in the barn, and then it's like a big exploration of the property in the middle of the night, and you know someone's going to creep up on her. She's pregnant. Aren't pregnant women supposed to have some kind of self-preservation instinct where they don't put themselves and their unborn child in danger? To quote Jules in Pulp Fiction, I just feel like saying, you're going to bring this situation to a head. Then we get to the more action-heavy stuff, and the quality absolutely plunges 100%. For a start, there's hardly any corn in this film. There's a dream sequence where Ali is being stalked by a couple of kids in a cornfield, but it only lasts for about a minute. The entire rest of the movie, there's no corn at all. Like maybe in some of the shots in the background, you can see some corn in the distance, but can't really count that. Like out of all of these movies, this is definitely the one with the least amount of corn, and that annoyed me because having cornfields in this film is like a big part of them. You can't take those out, you know. And there's also a distinct lack of murderous children. So for a lot of this, the thing that's attacking Tim and Ali is some kind of invisible force. Like the doors and the windows keep shutting on them as they try to leave, like tables and chairs flying across the room. And it's a bit like Children of the Corn meets Amityville or Tourist Trap. It just doesn't feel like this franchise's usual thing, its usual cocktail. There is one murderous child in a shed, and it's implied that he's causing a lot of this supernatural stuff with witchcraft, although how he can see into the house to do this stuff is a bit bizarre to me. It's just a bit weird. Towards the end, there is an absolutely disastrous car crash sequence. Disastrous in terms of the integrity of the movie, not because of somebody dying. So basically, the two main characters are in the middle of an escape, but there's a crash, and the one surviving member of the pair is then brought back to the farmstead because this bearded guy who works for the villains just happens to turn up and pull Ali out of the car after it's crashed. But the thing is, this is not some random country road in the middle of nowhere. It's like a big highway with like 5 lanes. There's like loads of traffic. There's cars everywhere. As soon as that crash happens, there's going to be like a whole bunch up of cars, people getting out. Some bearded guy is not just going to be able to come up in a truck and kidnap somebody in front of like 20 odd people. It just couldn't happen. And why would Ali even allow this without screaming? I mean, I know she's shocked because her boyfriend has just died, but it's like, she's a pregnant woman who's just had a horrible time back at the house. She's not going to allow herself to be taken back there in a truck. It's just so silly. It's like, what are you doing? If you're going to have this whole sequence play out like this, it's got to be a smaller country road with no traffic. But at least the film finishes off in a slightly cool way, because just before the end credits, there's this kind of funny joke that happens that I won't spoil. I did like that, but it's only one of 2 things I liked in the movie. So I liked the Jill Valentine look that Ali has. I liked the final joke before the credits, but that's pretty much it. And the only other thing I can say is at least it was only 78 minutes, so it didn't take up a massive amount of my time. Right, it's time to get to the bag of terror so I can show you what score I'm going to give Children of the Corn Genesis. Here's the bag. And inside we have 1.5 Michael Myers carving knives out of 5. This is not a good movie. If it wasn't for the dress that Ali's wearing, I probably would have just given it 1, in all honesty. This is not a good film at all. Definitely one of the worst Children of the Corns. And I am very much limping towards the finish line now of this series. I've only got 2 more to go. I reckon that certainly by the end of September, this will all be done and behind me, and I can move on. Right, before we go today, I've got a quick reading update. So I have just finished reading Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King. So kind of appropriate that I'm talking about this one today, given that Children of the Corn is also a Stephen King thing. I'm trying to work my way through the King books in publication order, loosely in publication order. I think I've read like 14 or 15 at this point, maybe. But I'm still in the 1980s. There's a lot of books to get through, and I've just finished this one. It's not actually a novel, it's a novella. It's very short. It's got pictures in it as well, which is unusual for King. But it made a change reading a book with pictures, actually. Plot is very simple. It's about a werewolf attacking a town, and it needs to be dealt with. The end. I got through it in just one sitting. I think it took me just over an hour to finish, but it was nice to read something short, actually, after all the marathon books I've been reading recently. So I'd give Cycle of the Werewolf a generous 4 out of 5. I think for what it's trying to do, I think it does it very well. And this was the book that went on to spawn the film Silver Bullet, which I've not actually seen, but I will cover at some point. Right, we'll leave it there for today. I'll be back very soon for another review. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.